Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great, as I always say, following the 3 H's of the channel and all that good stuff. And in this video, it's about to get weird again. Weird, bizarre, crazy, creepy, scary, everything. I got secret rooms, UFO encounters, crawlers, and more. So, if that sounds like something you're interested in, definitely pull up a stump with me. Let's get into it. Thank you for watching. This is something that happened when I was riding on an Amtrak train from Eugene to Portland. It was the middle of the night. The train started going slower than usual for some reason. It was still moving pretty fast, but you could definitely tell the difference. I was just watching the city lights out the window and contemplating how cool I think trains are, and human ingenuity and all that stuff, just getting lost in my thoughts. I was watching for half an hour when the train randomly comes to a stop. Apparently, something is blocking the path. And while we're stopped, I notice a man sitting on a chair about 20 feet away from the tracks in the middle of the night. I think this is really weird. He gets up and stands for a minute. He walks closer to the train. He's heading right for my window, or maybe the next one to me. I was in one of the sleeping compartments. As he gets closer, I can only make out that he's wearing some kind of hat and a trench coat. I'm hoping that he's just some guy who's trying to mimic the 1930s kind of gangster detective kind of accent. And then he stops 5 feet away. I can't bring myself to look for whatever reason, but I do end up staring back at him. He tilts his head to the side like a dog, like he's unsure of what he's seeing. The lights go out for a few seconds in the car. Total darkness. Really random. When it comes back on, the man's gone. The chair's gone. I don't really know what happened or what made the power go out, or even better yet, what was on the tracks. I've kept this to myself for quite a while because a lot of social media is garbage, and I've been laughed at for this, but I'll get to the point. In the summer of 2013, I was a senior in high school and partying with friends on the beach of an island lake because my friend lived there. Me and two friends, Alexis and Joseph, Joe for short, were sitting on the bed of Joe's truck. We were buzzed but not completely drunk or completely inebriated. We didn't take any hallucinogens, and we had all of our motor skills and senses. We were the only ones awake around 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and noticed green lights maneuvering in the sky, a large green light and several small green lights surrounding it, entering and exiting the larger one. After all the smaller green lights had entered the larger one, it faded from view. We all thought this was strange, but it could have been a flight show, considering the many private airfields in this area. But nothing prepared us for the extremely low vibration sound that overcame everything. Neither of us could hear each other from less than a foot away. We noticed the noise was the gravel road, the vehicles, and the houses all vibrating seemingly against each other. The lights on the houses went off and our phones all died. Then, over the tree line, about 120 feet or 36 meters, a large silver triangle with 3 large lights and no cockpit comes over the house in front of Joe's truck. Me and Alexis both stared at it. It had no visual cockpit or glass and seemed like a full solid piece, the only difference being the extremely bright yellow lights coming from each point in the triangle. Also, this craft was way too low to be flying in a residential area, but I'm no expert on that. Joe couldn't bear to look at it as it went over us, and then went over the lake, and slowly went up into the air, coincidentally in the direction of the other lights we saw earlier. Afterwards, Joe kicked us both out of his truck and sped away, leaving us out there and refusing to acknowledge what we saw. Myself and Alexis still talk about it to this day. In 2014, I turned 20 years old, and I was able to move out of my parents' house and into my own. My new house was super old. Most of the furniture was left by older tenants over the years, and I'm quite sure that it was left there because they had passed away. So I thought, oh, dead people stuff, why not? The neighborhood is alright, but not really great. I throw a rager my first night there to celebrate. My buddies buy me a 26 of Fireball and a cube of beer, and I think, oh, it's going to be one of those nights. So we start the party off right, shotguns all around. I start to feel really messed up really soon after, like way too drunk for what I've had. I've had like 3 beer and a shot. Sometime during the night, everything goes blank, totally black. I wake up the next morning on a concrete floor. It's pitch black. I am super hungover and afraid. I start feeling the walls. It's also concrete, but very narrow. I search around for a bit and I find a light switch. The light illuminates an extremely small room, like 10 by 4 by 5, that's length, width, and height. I think, where the hell am I? I see a trap door on the roof, and I try to open it. The door has a little give, but it's clear that something is on top of it. I give it all I've got, and I manage to get it open. The thing on top was a large rug. I can't move it aside from where I am, so I crawl under it, and I get out. I'm in my living room. I think, what the hell is going on? My phone immediately lights up with texts and missed phone calls. People saying, where are you, man? This isn't funny. Call me. I call one of my friends, and he freaks out on me. He says, we were looking for you all night, man. What the hell were you doing? I asked him what happened. He said, man, you were sitting on the couch, and you just spaced out and walked off somewhere into your house without saying anything. We couldn't find you. I tell him that I ended up in a crawl space type thing under the carpet of my living room. He says, that's impossible. I was in your living room all night. I stayed up to see if you came home. I ended up only living in that house for a few months because of stuff like that happening, increasingly on the regular. After that incident, I was trying to figure out what to do with that weird crawl space. I ended up filling it with concrete. My thought process was that if I put a lock on it, or I covered it in flooring, that still leaves that space open, meaning if I get taken again, there won't be any way to get out. I'm pretty sure this may have been a misstep though, because the spirits in that house got way more active after that. But for reference, I still don't even know how I got into the crawl space. The only door I could find was the trap door. Everything else was just pure concrete. If there was some kind of secret door down there or to get out, it would have to be one hell of a secret. You might not find this spooky or scary, but for us it was terrifying. In the spring of 2013, me and my friend were bored and wanted to do something that reminded us of our childhood. We decided to visit this abandoned street that leads into the woods at the very back of my neighborhood. The street name is Thrasher Street, which already is a horror movie name. But we get there, and we have to cross a collapsed bridge. It reminds me of something from the game Fallout. The entire time, my friend keeps saying that maybe we should go back, maybe we shouldn't be here. I want to tell him to grow a set, but I resist because I understand. I'm a little freaked out too. My friend hasn't had the easiest time either. He's been jumped by thieves and just bad people more than once, and my neighborhood is kind of notorious for these bad people. So I convince him to keep on going. We begin walking down the street. The trees and plants seem to have grown all over the street, but you could still see the curb. Me and my friend find a cul-de-sac branching off the street that we were on. There's no houses, but you can tell that the intent was there. Just a big concrete circle on the ground. The cul-de-sac was very clean compared to the other street, which was quite strange. I was beginning to explore a bit more when my friend said, "Oh shit." I turn around. "What is it?" He points. There's a guy wearing a hoodie down the street toward us. I begin to panic because I realize that we don't have any sort of weapon or any sort of defense. Here was this guy walking toward us in the middle of the woods. We kinda moved out of his way, but he came closer and simply walked straight by us. He had a glazed over look in his eyes, and as he walked by us, he whispered, "I'm already dead." I turned to my friend and asked him if he heard that. He says that he didn't hear anything. We look for the guy, but he's gone. He's completely disappeared in front of us as soon as we looked away. We turn around and decide it's best if we just leave to get the hell out of there. We fast forward about a week. I'm scrolling through Facebook and I'm seeing a whole bunch of posts about how a dead body was found near Thrasher Street a few days after we were there, and it was highly decomposed. I think, did we see his spirit? I tried to talk to my friend about it, but it's weird. He can't recall anything. He can't even recall encountering the guy. For him, we entered the woods, and everything just goes black. I haven't gone back there since, but I kinda want to go back there with some more friends, just to explore a little bit more. That morbid curiosity. Have you ever felt like you were totally lost? Like, even though you know the area, everything around you is in a dark wood that just keeps repeating itself. This is what happened to us. Me and a buddy of mine decided that after a graduation party, we would walk back through a wooded area behind the neighborhood. It would be faster that way, he said. I told him that there wasn't going to be enough light from his phone to find the trail all the way back. I told him that I knew that he knew this place well, but looking at the ground with just the light from your phone isn't going to help. This was also before the time when every phone had that LED flashlight function on it. He kept telling me, reassuring me that it will be all right, and I finally agreed. We started our journey. It was about midnight at this point. The only natural light that we had was a little bit bleeding through the treetops from the stars, but it didn't really help. After about 30 minutes of walking, the trail begins to thin out a bit, and the brush keeps smacking us in the face, the legs, and the arms. We're both getting scarred and cut up pretty bad from constant kneeling and brush and thorns. Nothing super fatal or painful though, just really irritating. We give it about 10 more minutes before we both start to wonder if we're lost. After I found a tree to lean on to catch my breath, I said, "I thought you said that you knew the way and that everything was gonna be fine." He says, "It was, and it still is. We just have to find a better trail, I think. I remember 5 minutes back there was a dip in the road. There's a branch to the left. That should be the way that we need. I must have taken the wrong one." I shrug it off and say, "All right, let's do this then." We go back to where the dip was, and we notice that there was running water through it now, but it was murky and had kind of almost a dark red color, or that's what I could make out from the really crappy light from his phone. He said, "Was that there before?" I shake my head no, but we go ahead and start down the left trail. He starts getting a little more excited. He says, "Oh, yes, this is it. I knew we weren't too far off. It should be just under an hour or so walk from here. It would have taken 4 to 5 through the city, mind you." We walk for a solid 10 more minutes, and then we come across something in the trail ahead of us. We stop to try and make out what it is. I whisper, "What do you think that is?" He says, "I'm not sure." He tries shining his phone light at it, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. So he shouts at it, "Hey." It ended up being a few deer, and they flee when they hear us, and we just start to laugh a little bit. But then we heard something behind us. It laughed after we did. At this point, I was starting to feel very unsafe, more lost than we were. My friend looked at me and then back behind us. "That wasn't you?" I said, "No, I was really hoping that you were pulling a prank on me." He turns, and without warning me, he bolts. I start running after him. I keep seeing his phone light pass in front of him, disappearing, and then back behind him. I was keeping up, but only for now. We run for about 5 minutes before he finally slows down. He checks the ground around him to make sure he's going the right way. He goes to run again, and I say, "Hey, wait, maybe we just heard an echo or something." He looks at me and sighs. "Maybe you're right." He looks back behind me, knowing that he doesn't want to. I look back with him to see if we can see anything. I say, "Go ahead and laugh again. Maybe it will just help us calm down. Maybe it was an echo." He agreed, and we both tried to have the fakest laugh we could. We didn't hear a laugh afterwards, or any kind of echo, but we waited just for some kind of confirmation. A minute goes by, and we can hear crunching on the ground. Small, quiet, deliberate steps. I nodded at him, and we both darted. We ran and ran and ran, for a while stopping for short breathers. I never felt so afraid in my entire life. I couldn't tell you how much time had passed, and I wasn't going to ask my friend to check. I just wanted to get the hell out of those woods. We stopped one more time to get a deep breath and drink some water from a pack that we had kept water in. I took a rest against another tree. I cracked my neck. I say, "I'm glad I'm still in good shape. This is killing me. I've almost tripped like 6 times. My friend said, "At least you don't have tendinitis. My ankle's on fire right now." We rest a few more seconds, and then we turn to get back on the trail. He's got his phone out, looking at the ground to find it. He says that we should definitely be close now. Hopefully that thing we heard was just all in our heads, or more deer, hopefully. He looks up at me, tells me he found the trail, and then he looks past me a couple of seconds and squints his eyes. What is that? I look back, hoping, praying that he was joking, but he wasn't. There was something standing in the trail, a few 100 feet back. The night sky and tree line by this point was a little more clear and letting some more light in, but I still couldn't tell exactly what the creature was, but I knew it was taller than us. It looked like just a black object laid out onto the night sky. It laughed, the same mimicking laugh that we had heard earlier. I don't know if my friend was, but I was frozen. The creature had something in its grasp. It chucked it over our heads, and it made a terrible crash to the forest floor, knocking over some small trees in the end. I finally got enough courage to start back up. I turned around and saw my friend, frightened and in shock. I grabbed his arm and yelled, "Run!" We started to run again. After about 20 feet, we passed the downed trees and saw that the thing that the creature had thrown was indeed a large deer. I could never tell just by passing it that quick, but I think it was a buck. We ran screaming almost the whole time, hearing the thing behind us, running after what I was sure was going to be its next meal. I lost the water bottle somewhere along the way, but I didn't care. My whole body was sore, but we didn't care. I'm sure that we are not going to make it at this point. I saw lights coming from the road ahead, and in triumph, I shouted out. My friend had kept up with me, and it sounded like the creature was slowing to a stop. All we heard was that mocking laughter, the laughter that still haunts my dreams. We obviously made it home, because I'm telling you about it. But I really feel like if that thing had actually wanted to, we would have been dead. I think it was just playing with us, and that the fear and disorientation that we felt was all part of its plan. So, what'd you think of those? Let me know which one was your favorite one down in the comments. Do you have one of your own? I have an email in the description below that you can send them to if you'd like to. If you have an idea for like a country or a state or something that a video can be done on, definitely leave a comment down below. In the description as well is a PayPal and a Patreon if you would like to support the channel. You can also do a super thanks as well. But as always, just watching the video, liking, commenting, subscribing is very helpful, and I'm grateful for that. And that one about Thrasher Street, that made me think of something that happened to me when I was a kid, maybe around 10, I think, something like that. There is a community, I guess we'll call it that. It's basically a straight road. Now there's two ends to the road. Both ends are paved, but there's about 30 kilometers or so in between that's just a dirt road with like lots of side roads or side trails, I guess, and camps and stuff like that. My parents had family friends that had a camp way back in there. Like you'd have to go onto the dirt road, take a side road, take another side road, and you'd eventually get there. So they were going to stay the night there, just one night, and I went with them. I don't remember why, but for some reason I was curious about the place. As soon as we got there, things were already quite eerie. It was already quite quiet there, which is not out of the ordinary for these woods. They're just kind of creepy in general, and you always feel like you're being watched. But during this time, the daytime was relatively fine. It was mostly just doing camp stuff. There was no power to this place either. It had a gas stove and I think a pump outside that had a sink or something. I don't quite remember those details, but I remember when it got dark was when things got real weird. We were all trying to sleep, and suddenly there was thumping all around the cabin, like somebody was walking around and just smacking the side of the cabin as hard as they could. And this cabin wasn't very big either. It had like 2 rooms and a cubby hole. That's basically the cabin. Also, I don't think the back door had any kind of lock. It was just like a latch, and the latch could be undone from the outside, so that's already creepy enough. But I go into where my parents are sleeping, because I was sleeping on a couch before that, and we continue to hear the thumping and stuff. My dad is just not awake at all. He's just snoring away. My mom is kind of in and out of sleep, not really knowing what's going on. But there's this window that is right by the bed. And as I hear this thumping noise, it's getting closer to where we are. And then this big shadowy thing, like blacker than black, I guess is the best description, because it was pitch black out already. But it was blacker than black, and it was standing in the window, and it put its hand on the window, real long fingers. I don't know if it was furry, I don't know if it was just skin. To me it just looked like a black shape putting its hand on the window. It didn't look like that it was looking at us though. It just looked like it was looking into the darkness that was the room. And then it moved on. I thought it was going to be gone. I was wrong. I hear the back latch on the door unlock, and then I hear something like a thud, which I assumed was the door shutting again. And now in the cabin, we had this little portable TV, if anybody's old enough to remember those. We had a portable TV that had a battery in it, and it was off, and all of a sudden it turned on. No volume, just static. And then this big shadowy thing that was just outside walks by the bedroom door toward the front door. And it's at that point I realized that walking is a bad term to describe what it's doing, because it has no feet that are touching the floor. It's just kind of floating, I guess is the best word. And eventually I hear it open the front door and close the front door. And then after that, there's just nothing for the rest of the night. The next morning, I look around a bit and nothing is out of place. The TV is also dead now. The battery's gone dead overnight, because I didn't want to get up and turn it off after that, obviously. And my parents are all like, "Oh, why couldn't you sleep last night?" And I'm like, "Oh, I freaking wonder why." And as you can imagine, the road there is pretty muddy and dusty. So my dad goes outside and sees the vehicle that we have, and there's handprints all over it. And he just went, "Huh, that's weird." And then we ate breakfast and we packed up and left. Now, I don't know if the camp is still there. I don't know if they ever stayed there again. But I know I'm not going to go there again, because screw that. So yeah, that one from Thrasher Street just kind of made me think of that. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed my rambling. And yeah, thank you for pulling up a stump. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.